Hello, I'm Alison Wilde. Welcome to the screen method for DNA match note taking. Because you're here watching this video, I'm going to assume there's a specific question you're trying to answer with your DNA test. Maybe your family tree looks pretty good actually, and you want to use your DNA test to just double check and make sure you didn't get off track and that you're still working on your biological lines. Maybe you want to extend a line that goes dead in the 1800s. Maybe you have a parent that was adopted, so a good portion of your family tree is completely blank. Whatever your question is, your answer, if it's possible to be found right now, is sitting there in your DNA match list. The best information to solve your problems is in those matches. So it's especially frustrating as a beginner when you don't know what you're supposed to do with that list. Well, I want to demystify that process for you today. Making notes for your matches using the SCREEN acronym will automatically lead you to pull out the information you need and to organize it in a way that you can use. No matter what your end goal is, the starting point is the same. A systematic note-taking system will help you build the framework of information that you can use to analyze whatever problem it is you're trying to solve. Now, I'm sure you noticed the title page of this video says the screen method is for beginners with at least one known parent. If that description doesn't fit you because either you're not a beginner or you don't know any portion of your family tree, don't worry. You can access videos designed for those situations by going online to AlisonWildeDNA.com and following the flow chart there. This will guide adoptees to the L screen video and more experienced users to the AP screen video. Portions of all three methods are the same, so you should still get something out of this video, and I encourage you to stick around no matter what. Let's start by looking at a list of ancestry DNA matches. This is Linda's ancestry test and Linda's notes, and these aren't bad notes. She's identified who these four people are, which is great, but I can tell just by looking at this screen that Linda has a problem with at least one of these matches. 104 centimorgans is too much DNA for a fifth cousin relationship. They may have that relationship, but if so, that's not the only relationship they share. And if Linda's trying to solve a mystery in that portion of her family tree, and she relies on this match, she's going to encounter some issues. Issues that could have been prevented by looking for and documenting all of the important information for this match up front. So Linda has notes here, but she doesn't have a good framework built for future analysis, and that's where screen method notes could be useful to her. So we're going to use the word screen as an acronym here to help us remember what information to look for and the order in which to notate it. The letter S stands for side in this beginner method. We want to document whether the match is related to you on your maternal or paternal side. In the advanced version, this S stands for something else, but for beginners, just stick with maternal or paternal. C is for common ancestor or ancestors. R is for the relationship between the two testers. E is for an evaluation of shared centimorgans. The next E is for an evaluation of the shared matches. And the last letter N is a kind of catch-all where we can include anything we noticed or things we need to know. We will also use words such as problem, stop, wait, and double, triple, etc. as necessary, and I'll show you examples of those. With the screen method, the notes for Linda's matches will end up looking like this. The identified matches that we can have confidence in will start with a line of 10 periods so they stand out in the match list. Then we have side, common ancestors, relationship, evaluation of shared centimorgans, evaluation of shared matches, and finally the letter N for noticed or need to know, such as messages exchanged with this match or the fact that we identified a problem with this match. You can see the way this displays on an ancestry screen is kind of nice because the categories kind of stack up on top of each other. We'll also use the information in the matches we do have confidence in, which are those with that clean 10 periods at the start. We use those in order to gain insight on the matches we can't identify, because even though we don't know the relationship yet, we can evaluate their shared matches, and we can document things that we've noticed that are important. Okay, we're going to use the DNA test of my friend Glenn as our example today. He wants to make sure the people in his tree are really his biological ancestors, and he would love to fill in this blank portion of his tree as well. He knows this woman's first name is Mary, but he doesn't know who her parents are. So where do we begin with Glenn's test? First, it's important to understand you're going to have to go through your match list 3 separate times, starting at your best match and working all the way down to your 40 centimorgan matches. And I know some of you have a ton of matches and you're going to say that's not reasonable, but all the good information is in your matches. And this will go quicker than you think because the first time through, you're only going to make notes on the matches where you can identify the relationship. So let's start this process for Glenn. This is his list of matches at Ancestry, and Glenn immediately recognizes the name of his top match, Megan Barnett. He has a first cousin with the same name. But before he starts making his note, we want to double check that this is really her. So let's click on that match. And we can see in Megan's tree, her paternal grandparents with the surnames of Sanchez and Kravitz are the same people as Glen's maternal grandparents. So yes, this Megan Barnett is exactly the cousin that Glen thought she was. So now we can add the note for Megan. We know how she's related to Glen, so we're going to start with 10 periods. Then we go to the screen acronym. This will help us remember what information to document and make sure we put it in the same order every time for every match. Remember, for beginners, S stands for side. Megan's the first cousin on Glen's maternal side, so we type MAT to indicate that and end this section with a period. C is for common ancestor or ancestors. Glen and Megan share one couple, and we want both of those surnames in our note. I put a slash in between couple surnames. If Glen and Megan only shared one ancestor instead of the couple like this, then I would just put the one surname in the note with a big only after that, just to make it really obvious to myself later. Moving on, R is for relationship. In this case, that is first cousins. We want to keep this note short and uniform. Just use a number 1 and the letter C. E is for evaluation of shared centimorgans. Glen and Megan share 810 centimorgans. To evaluate whether or not this amount looks right for their first cousin relationship, we will use the shared centimorgan project. Make sure you're checking that on each and every match. If you aren't familiar with the shared centimorgan project, you'll find a lot of information by Googling it or going to the web address listed here. I also have a video at AlisonWildeDNA.com that covers this in more detail. Glen and Megan are well within the range of shared DNA for their first cousin relationship. In fact, they're pretty close to the average. So I've added centimorgans about average to our note. You can use about average, below average, above average, but you want to make sure you're within the range and well within the range for the relationship the testers are supposed to share. If you're close to the low end or the high end of that range, that's a red flag, but there's something you need to look into further. The next D is for evaluation of shared matches, but we can't make that note yet because this is the first match we have made a note for and we don't know anything about the other matches yet. So we'll leave this portion blank until our second run through our match list. N is for noticed or need to know. We don't have anything on this match that we need to put there. So the note for Megan's done. It's pretty easy and straightforward. Going back to Glen's overall match list, we're ready to look at the second person, Amina Okar. She doesn't have a tree and Glen doesn't recognize that name. So we can't identify a relationship between them yet. That means we skip Amina on this first run through. Willa Hernandez. Willa does have a tree, and when we look at that, we see that Willa is the daughter of Megan Barnett. So let's do our screen note for Willa. We know what her relationship to Glen is, so we start with the 10 periods. Side is maternal, common ancestor couple is Sanchez and Kravitz, relationship, first cousin once removed. Evaluation of shared centimorgans was close to the average. We don't do the evaluation of shared matches yet, so we skip it for now. N is for notice to need to know. We do have something to notate here. We need to know that Willa is the daughter of Megan. And in addition, we're going to add the word stop in front of the 10 periods so that we are immediately notified that we don't want to use this test as part of our analysis. This is important because when we see these two tests show up on a shared match list, we want to be reminded we don't have two separate examples of DNA that descend from the Sanchez and Kravitz couple. There's really just Megan's DNA test and then that same DNA showing up again in her daughter Willa. If Willa was a niece of Megan's instead of her daughter, then instead of using that big stop, I would use the word wait instead. As a niece, this test wouldn't be an exact copy of Megan's DNA, but they are closely related. And so I want to be cautious and only use Megan's niece's DNA in situations where it's warranted. The word wait will remind me to check for the specific situation. Let's go back to Glen's overall match list. We're going to skip Miranda Stanley since she has an unlinked tree and her name isn't familiar to Glen. And let's look at Duncan Anderson. Let's go to his match page. In Duncan's tree, we find that he shares two sets of ancestors with Glen. Glen and Duncan are third cousins on the Clausen-Holm line and first cousins once removed on the Braun-Schwartz line. We need to account for both of these relationships in our note, which is going to look like this. We're definitely going to start out by calling attention to that double relationship. That goes before the 10 periods since we want to see that first. And we do use the 10 periods because we do know how Duncan is related to Glen. And then we document each relationship, starting with the closest relationship first. Side, common ancestor couple, and the relationship. Then a big old and, then the next relationship, side, common ancestor couple relationship. After both of those relationships, we'll do our evaluation of shared centimorgans. And you'll see I was a bit more specific this time, noting that 425 centimorgans is okay for both. When you're evaluating double or triple, multiple relationships, look at each relationship box at the shared centimorgan project and add them together. In this case, 425 centimorgans is reasonable, especially when you consider the fact they might not share any DNA at all from that third cousin relationship. We skip the evaluation of shared matches because this is our first run through the match list. And then of course, the last letter in the screen acronym is N for notice, need to know. We already covered that by letting ourselves know up front that this is a double relationship. Okay, let's fast forward and I'll show you what Glenn's match list looks like after I finish the first time through his match list. I've made notes for all the identified matches, as you can see. Some of them sent little hello cousin messages to Glenn, and that allowed us to identify a few more relationships, and included the fact that we learned about these relationships because of the message at the end of the note. We have a nice mix of maternal and paternal matches with several different ancestor couples represented, down into the third cousin level now. Here's a few more matches, getting down into the 50 centimorgan range. Seeing more of those third cousins and some fourth cousin matches now. We still have a nice mix of ancestral couples, which I like to see. That looks good, right? Isn't that so satisfying to see the information all nice and in an orderly list? I love it. It makes me so happy. Before we start a second run through the matches, we want to take a quick minute to document how many identified matches with those clean 10-period starts we have from each ancestral couple in Glenn's tree. Don't count matches where we started with the word stop, like Willa Hernandez, Megan's daughter, and use your best judgment on when to include matches with the word wait. Okay, Glenn's lucky. He has matches descending from almost all of his second great grandparent couples, which goes a long way towards his goal of confirming that he has the right biological ancestors in his family tree up to this point. I didn't expect to see many matches from this Schwartz and Hess couple because most of his family remained in Germany, so I'm not worried about a lack of matches there yet. Of course, we haven't identified matches descending from this couple because we don't even know the names of the people we're looking for yet. Right now, we're building the framework we need to start that project. And I want to quickly mention that this graphic of Glenn's tree stops at his second great grandparent level so that it's large enough for you to view as a slide. But when you do this on your test, make sure you have at least 2 more generations here so that your fourth great grandparent couples are listed. You're going to need them on here because you're going to have identified some of your fifth cousin matches that descend from those couples. Okay, we're ready for our second run through the matches. This will go quick because we're only going to look at the people we made notes on during the first run. We want to go back and evaluate their shared matches now that we have some information built up. So back to Megan Barnett at the top of our list. Let's look at her shared matches. This goes quick because we only need to scan down and pick out the common ancestors in the notes. I skipped this note, by the way, because of the word stop. The next page of matches looks good as well. We're getting to the cousins further back. Third page down on her matches. Yes, this all looks good. We skipped that last one because of the word wait. Now the expected fourth cousin level matches are starting to show up. And if I were to page down several more times, you'd see that all the rest of these shared matches have notes that look good as well. We're in the correct ancestral couple line. So this looks good. These are textbook perfect. It's easy to visualize this if you look at Glenn's tree again. This is Megan's test. She's the one tester descending from the Sanchez and Kravitz couple. Her shared matches were all from these couples, which looks great. These are all within the upstream or downstream pattern from their common ancestor couple. That's what we want to see. So to finish Megan's note, we're just going to add this tiny SM for shared matches. Okay, we'll keep it simple, and the note for Megan's all done now. And going back to Glenn's overall match list, you can see we just keep going and doing this for the rest of the matches. Most of them are going to have this same short notation that the shared match is checked out okay. When you hit a match with the double relationship, get a little bit more specific by writing the names of the ancestor couples that appear in the notes on the shared match list. Sometimes you run into a match that has some correct shared matches and then a few extra that we didn't expect to see. This might indicate a problem, or it might not be a problem at all. Maybe this match is related to the Berry family in a completely different way that doesn't involve Glenn. But we do need to note that by adding PBLM for problem to the front of the note to make us aware of this situation. Something like this will work and instantly remind us of our findings. Okay, you just have to trust me that I finished the second run through Glenn's match list and we're done with that. We don't have time to work through every single one of these. We're going to start our third time through the matches, in which we go back and add a note for all the remaining matches we haven't touched yet. And you can see from looking at Glenn's overall match list, that's quite a few people. It's probably going to be the majority of your matches are still going to have no notes at this point. I'm hoping for you, you're one of those lucky people where you've identified a lot of your matches. So there's plenty here to work with still. We can't use the entire screen acronym on those people because we don't have the information for these matches. We don't know how we're related to them, right? We're mostly going to focus on these bottom two, an evaluation of the shared matches and picking up anything of interest that we notice, including common surnames, locations, or anything else that provides a clue about how they might be related. We won't worry about doing an evaluation of the shared centimorgans for most of these matches, but we do want to factor that in on the high centimorgan matches, such as Amina Okar. Do you remember her? She's the first unidentified match in Glenn's list, and they share 749 centimorgans of DNA, which is quite a bit. We see on the shared match list people from Glenn's maternal ancestors. If we go to the next page of matches, there's even more on that maternal side. Let's start a note for Amina. We haven't identified her, so we don't use the 10 dots. We just start documenting the shared matches. So we say shared matches are Sanchez and Kravitz, and Sanchez and Clausen, Sanchez and Larson, and Clausen and Holm. Can you see what we're going to have here? Let's put these shared matches on Glenn's family tree so you can visualize it a little bit. These are the shared matches for Amina Okar. Take a minute and see if you can make a guess at who Amina is going to turn out to be. Remember, she shares 749 centimorgans of DNA with Glenn. I'll help you out by giving you the possible relationships for 749 centimorgans from the shared centimorgan project. And I'll tell you that Amina's ancestry profile and a little bit of internet research helped us find out that Amina is only 5 years older than Glenn's mother. So this is my first guess, which would mean that Glenn's mother had an older half-sister the family was completely unaware of. Surprise! And yes, that did turn out to be true. If you want to hear more about how we were able to figure that out, you can see the case study for Amina Okar at my website. And there are likely case studies like this in the Roots Tech video library as well and all over online. So that was an exciting find in Glenn's family tree. But remember, what he was really hoping to accomplish was to fill in this missing couple in the orange here. So as we went through the match list this third time, we really watched for unidentified matches who had this Mr. Hill and his wife Mary couple show up in their shared match list. But they didn't have the Hill-Barry couple. You following that? We're trying to exclude matches descending from this red couple because we want to isolate matches that likely descend from the orange couple. So those are the shared matches we were really hoping to find because they would be useful to us in our project to find Glenn's missing ancestral couple in orange. And doing a project like that became entirely possible because we laid the foundation here with our good screen notes. It's so exciting to get to this point. This is Glenn's match list after the third time through. Every single match has a note. The identified matches are still easy to pick out because they have those 10 periods at the start. And you can see the matches that meet the criteria to help with Glenn's project. I've marked them with a star and put them in their own group. 2 of them have trees that go to the same place in Ohio, so this is really good. Trust me, when you get to this point in your match list, you really should be proud of yourself. You will have laid the framework to tackle the question or problem that exists in your tree. And I hope you end up with some really useful matches like Glenn did. We were able to figure out who Mary's parents were, which was really awesome and rewarding. I'd like to tell you all about that, but we're out of time for this video, so you'll have to watch the case study for Mrs. Mary Hill another day. Here's your last look at the SCREEN acronym. You should be able to print this from the same website where you access this video if you're interested. I hope you got something out of this video and that the SCREEN method can help you solve whatever ball of yarn you're trying to untangle in your own family tree. I'm Alison Wilde. And you can see the case studies mentioned in this video, as well as find the advanced and adoptee versions of the SCREEN method at the website AlisonWildeDNA.com. You can also email me at AlisonWildeDNA@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to answer your questions about the SCREEN method or send you links to those videos. I'd also love to hear any feedback you have and be able to celebrate with you if you have success using the SCREEN method. Good luck, and hope you have as much fun as I do working on these family history mysteries.